Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to thrive and not just get through the week. I'm Liz Ferricks, and this is my husband Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Friday.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us for another week. Hopefully you listened to the other episodes this week. We've been talking about
The basics.
Oh yeah, stuck in last week.
We're doing a deep dive on the basics this
That's
week.
right. Thank you for listening in general. Even if this is your first episode, thank you so much for finding the show. And if this is interesting to you or thought-provoking at all, please share the show with a friend and see what they think about it. Might start an interesting conversation. And hopefully, our prayer is that we'll increase and strengthen your faith and draw you closer to God.
So since it's Friday, we are talking about being complete. There are kind of three main areas of completeness. One is being your whole self. So bringing your whole self to bear in any situation. That means not being a different person depending on who you're with, but being the same person all the time.
Yeah, sounds easy, but it's not.
Right. And the other one is being fully present in the moment that you're in, not being stuck on the worry-regret spectrum in the future or the past, but being here and now.
Yeah, again, it's like, well, do I really need to work on that? But I think the more we think about it, the more we're like, boy, when I'm around so-and-so, I tend to use this kind of language. Why is that? Or bitterness is that regret part. You know, we might know when we're stuck in bitterness.
Yeah.
That's pretty dangerous.
Well, and I think especially if you are someone like me who's more of a, type A, go get 'em kind of personality, it's easy to get stuck in just, what do I need to do next? Instead of being focused on doing the thing that I'm doing now, I'm like doing the thing that I'm doing now and also thinking about how I'm going to do whatever the thing is that's next.
Yeah. The idea for both of those I wrote down is getting stuck in time. But we're not stuck in the time that we're in right now. We're stuck in either the past or the future.
Right.
Our mind is there. And so essentially we're there too. And it's a fragmented way to live. It's very confusing.
Right. Well, and it takes away all your power. Mm-hmm. One of the quotes that I have on my desk to remind me of this is a Tai Chi quote. It says, "A whole wave knocks you over. The spray just gets you wet."
And I'm like, okay, so are we the wave? Like you're supposed to be as powerful as a wave?
Yes. The whole wave is the water that's concentrated and fully there all in one piece. And that can knock somebody over. But if you're fragmented all over the place, you're just the spray.
Yeah.
And it gets people wet, but it doesn't really do much else.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Something I thought of with this that I don't know if I've thought about on Complete Day, we do Complete every Friday, is hypocrisy. Jesus talks a lot about that. And when we are when we're compartmentalized in our life, when we're at church, we act a certain way. When we're at work, we act a certain way. When we're driving, maybe we act a certain way. That's really a form of hypocrisy. We're not being unified in ourselves, and we're acting to a certain extent. I mean, sometimes we can't help it, but the more we become aware of it, we can work on that, and Jesus in his power can help us get free from that. But yeah, we're really kind of pretending our whole life, and that's a heck of a way to live. Yeah,
makes you miserable and probably some of the people around you. You may think nobody notices, but I can guarantee there's somebody that's like, what? Especially if you have a family.
Yes.
So.
Somebody who knows you well, and those are important connections.
Yes. And the third part of being complete is engaging with what's actually happening. So you're not in denial. You're not in some alternate universe, which is easy to do where you just have a certain perspective. Beth Moore, in one of her Bible studies, talks about, taking things on to yourself. And she was like, so if you're the person in the elevator and somebody says, "Nice shirt," do you automatically assume that it's about you?
Instead of someone else in the elevator?
Right. Oh. And you're like, "Oh, thanks," And then she was like, now what about if it's a criticism? If somebody says a criticism, do you automatically take that on and assume, oh, yep, that's me that they're talking to? That's the one that I have trouble with, is like taking criticism too far, or that's not intended for me, or not intended as criticism. And I think when we have those predispositions, we can, it's a lens that kind of warps our view of reality.
Yeah. So that has to do with our view of ourselves, right? Like, oh,
Right.
I'm not someone who wears a nice shirt, or if someone says good job and then you go to, boy, they didn't say great job. I must have messed that up.
Yeah. Or if I had a professor once who wrote something like good job or something, but he put a smiley face next to it. And I was like,
Oh, sarcasm.
What does that mean? Do you mean that I did a good job or do you mean that I didn't? I had a really hard time with that.
That's like the first emoji probably back when you were in college.
Those 3 things sound simple, but they are definitely not easy.
Yeah. So how do we pull ourselves out of the standard and get into that stuff?
The fragmentation thing, a big part of it is just accepting yourself for who you are. We talked about that on Wednesday. Being able to say, this is my personality, this is where God's gifted me, this is who I am. God made me to be a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and along with that, like even these are my flaws. These are the bumps and bruises I've got along the way, and now I have a passion about this or that. Like that could be some really beautiful stuff. We talked about kintsugi last week, and I just love that image of God healing. When we talked about harm versus hurt, how God is the healer and the master put her back together.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with that, that's the Asian art of taking broken pottery, broken plates, things like that, and putting it back together with gold.
Yeah.
So it becomes an art piece.
Yeah. And a way to try to get to that understanding of who we are and how God sees us, I think it starts with prayer. I mean, that is a great thing to ask for. God, show me myself. I mean, that's throughout the Psalms, search my heart, O God, and teach me your ways. Like, God, tell me about myself. I want to know, I want to know me the way you do. And that prayer will be answered.
I think for the worry regret spectrum and for kind of having that warped view of reality, a big part of that is just dealing with our stuff, doing the work to say, okay, what are my regrets? Okay, pray and ask God to redeem those and then let go of them.
This fits with being authentic too. I mean, if we're going through our life so worried about getting found out about this thing that we have a regret about, or some secret sin or something, or just something we don't like about ourselves, that's going to be so stressful.
Seriously.
Then, okay, let it happen. So what if it gets found out?
Right.
Facing whatever that fear is there, cast that care on God and be like, I'm so worried about this and I don't know what to do about it. Incorporate that into your prayer life. Ask for strength to accept it and to try to, surrender some of that fear.
It's definitely, it takes work to do that kind of processing, but it is so good. It's so amazing to be able to move on from those things. And the same thing with worry. About a year ago, was it a year ago? What? 2 years ago when I took that money class?
Probably 2.
About 2 years ago, I took a bunch of classes on finances because finances have always been a huge stress in my life. Growing up with it, an issue in our family. And then after I got out of the house and got married, it was like, I cannot make this work ever. And so I took some classes that were on, both getting rid of financial trauma issues and then also on here's how to do a good budget and kind of the basics and really shifting my mindset. And it has helped so much.
Sometimes I don't think we even know where we're fragmented sometimes. I mean, that's a great example. But I could see someone going through their life just being stressed about money, but never really knowing why.
Right.
And just feeling like, I'm bad at money or
that's how
whatever.
I felt, was like, I just can't do this. Other people can make it work and I cannot make a budget work to save my life.
Yeah.
And so then...
But you started trying to dig into that and figure out what was going on.
Yeah, because I was tired of living that way. It was actually because I had done a Bible study shortly after our oldest daughter was born, and she's almost 12 now. And one of the answers that I had written down was finances as one of my greatest stressors. And then I ended up doing it a decade later and looked back at that answer and went, okay, that is not okay that's the same place I would put finances, and it was like, rank your top 5 stressors. And I was like, so finances made the list and it didn't change in a decade. I've got to do some work here.
Yeah, that's kind of the value of I mean, that wasn't really a journal, but journaling or looking back over,
Right.
when you do the Bible study, you just
That's my version of
right. I think
journaling.
that's so cool. Like you do the same workbook over and over again, and you can see what the
Right.
answers were.
I date my workbooks and then I just do them multiple times.
Yeah. Another great way to kind of get insight into what may be an issue is to be honest with your friends. I mean, or a pastor,
Yeah.
or get a counselor or something where you can really share yourself with someone without fear of, shame or judgment or repercussions or anything,
Right.
in case you need to confess a major sin. And
Just make sure that it's a good pastor.
it needs to be someone
or a
safe.
good friend. Right. Like do those vulnerability tests, and if they don't handle it well, because unfortunately, not every pastor is a good pastor.
Yeah.
Not every friend is a good friend.
Yeah. So maybe pray for God to lead you to the right person. But there's a number of options out there. There's support
Right.
groups, that are anonymous, so you're safe there and you can share things, and that kind of get you used to the idea of it. It's pretty intimidating.
This is true. I think, too, meditation is one that I keep coming back to as far as the be present part. Our daughter was actually just saying that she thinks I need to have a few times a day where I stop and take deep breaths.
Sure.
Just to be like, yep, self-care, still engaged in the moment. And
You either have off or pedal to the metal as your two speeds, it seems like.
yes, pretty much.
So when you're going, it's hard to take
focused.
time to breathe.
Yes.
This kind of is folded in with that, but it just mindfulness in general, I think, can be like a mini
yeah.
meditation throughout the day. I mean, I've been really enjoying this for months now. When I go to work or if I'm anywhere in the car by myself, I don't listen to the radio or music or anything. And I just am there in the car driving. My mind is going, so I'm not always exactly in the moment, but maybe I'm processing something or praying, or, if it's not 1,000,000 degrees out or 0 degrees, like it tends to be here. I'll have the window down and just trying to feel the wind and stuff. Like it's just kind of a little mindfulness thing, kind of whenever that happens to be, it's kind of a like, okay. So, you could pick a time when you're alone and you can let your mind wander, or you could, or pray and kind of make that a little mini retreat, a little time to be mindful.
Those are definitely key. And if you are not sure how to go about meditation or mindfulness, there are several great apps. So we use Headspace, which is a meditation and mindfulness app, and Calm, which is also a meditation and mindfulness app, and Insight.
Yeah, and on each of those, there's a fair amount of free ones that you can do to kind of get the feel of it. And then if you want to do the full-blown thing, you pay a little subscription fee.
As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for good things or not. Because like God says in the Proverbs, as a man thinks in his heart, so shall he be. So we want to think good thoughts.
Yeah, well, like we were saying today, if you're stuck in worry or regret, you're going to find more things to worry about and more things to regret. I mean...
Right. Well, and good thoughts in that case are not ignoring the problem. It's processing and moving on.
That's right. Dealing with it.
Exactly. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it with your peeps. And come back next week, and we are going to talk about hitting bottom.
Yeah. And if you don't know what that means, come on back and we'll tell you, because it's a pretty amazing concept.
All right, you guys, have an awesome weekend.
See you later.